Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Delaware Orthopedic Specialists. Spring has officially sprung, and you know what that means. All the weekend warriors dusting off their gear and trying way too hard to relive the glory days, and you know what's going to happen. Hip, ankle, foot, leg, knee, shoulder, injuries. Where else should you go other than Delaware Orthopedic Specialists? I don't know. DOS has specialists trained in each and every part of the body, so you're getting a provider specifically assigned to that part of the body. Why would you trust anyone other than a specialist? The only fellowship-trained surgery center in the state of Delaware makes it a no-brainer. Head on over to delortho.com or give them a call at 302-655-9494. I'm telling you, my family's gone there. My friends have gone there. Check out their Google reviews. They are phenomenal. DOS. Don't trust anyone other than a specialist.
Welcome to Talking 215, your go-to podcast for everything you need to know about Philly sports. Whether you bleed green, trust the process, fly with the Flyers, or fight with the Fightins, this is the place where we break down Broad Street. Jake, Sean, and Joey deep dive into the heart of Philly sports culture, breaking down games, roster moves, and sharing the stories that make the 215 truly legendary. So grab a cheesesteak, settle in, and let's get to Talking 215. Now here's your host, Jake Biasado.
What's going on, everybody? Talking 215. We are back, and the NFL, after screwing the Eagles for so many years with the schedule, we had a home game wasted in Brazil and everything, gives us a nice little treat. We are having our banner raising ceremony at Lincoln Financial Field with the Dallas Cowboys, Jerry Jones, and their moronic fan base in attendance to watch us raise our 2025 World Championship banner. To talk about it, we got the Doc, we got Sean, and we got Coach, who's probably going to be coming back here any moment now. He had the blue screen of death, but he's loading back in here. We'll figure it out. Gentlemen, starting the season off, kicking off against the Cowgirls, they get to witness our banner raising, all that ceremony. How does that feel?
You know, I'm going to tell you when it actually happens, because right now, I'm still high off the birds just winning the Super Bowl in the first place, right? I do think that the NFL owed us something over the last couple of years, being one of the premier teams and kind of getting punished for it, right? Mm-hmm. So finally we win the big one. Maybe not finally, but second time in 8 years, no big deal. And it feels like we're finally being rewarded with one great big FU to the entire Dallas fan base.
I agree totally. I think it's awesome. They have to stand there. And I hope they wait till everybody's on the field and make sure they see that banner being dropped, because, they can argue, oh, it's going to fire us up or whatever. It's just a humiliation of epic proportions for the Cowboys. And I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, to your point, I saw some people tweeting, talking about like, oh, is this going to be a trap game? It's a big division rivalry, and you're going to be, smelling yourself having the banner drop and having that whole big ceremony. It's the first game of the year, and it's only going to make Dallas hungrier, seeing that their division rival just celebrating the championship and everything. Is this a trap game, dare I say? Week one of the NFL season. Look, I've said it for years now. Week one of the NFL season is one of the craziest week in sports. You have so many people die in a suicide pool where you're trying to pick just one team to win, because there's so many just weird upsets. Teams that end up winning 15 games, losing to a team that ends up only winning 3, because it's week one. Nobody's got everything oiled up. Nobody's got a well-oiled machine just running out there. Everybody's kind of struggling, working out the kinks, knocking off the rust. And you got one team that's just a little bit more prepared than the other that ends up being a dog shit team beating a good team. And so I at the end of the day, this is all to say, I'm not worried about it at all. I'm with you guys. I'm so glad that they're going to have to witness all that. You already know there's going to be so many videos of people just looking at Jerry Jones, because his booth is right above the fans all the time. You see videos of people recording Jerry saying, "Never retire. Thank you so much. We love you in Philadelphia." So looking forward to seeing some videos when that banner drops.
Yeah, I think it's the first game of the year, but you got to realize they're coming off. They have a new head coach. Dak's coming off a hamstring, so he's going to be rusty. And my only regret is we don't play him later in the season in the first game, so we get him pre-George Pickens explosion, because that guy's coming off the rails at some point this season. I just wish we were there to witness that. But I think they're in a good position. I think they could be rusty. but their Rusty is much better than the Cowboys sharp, in my opinion.
Oh yeah. No, I still got the over under at 1.5 personal fouls with George Pickens.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of time. We're going to play them twice. So by the second time they come around, and I don't think that they've showed the second date for the Cowboys, but
No.
I mean, that team will be well on its way to imploding. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. I don't care for a little rusty week 1 because we are dropping the banner. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure if we end up taking an L for some unforsaken reason, right, we're going to have all of Twitter come out of nowhere and they're going to tell us how terrible we are after we dropped the banner on them week 1. So like it's just taking a look at the big picture of things. I don't really care. I don't really care. Week 1, we have the rest of the season. Like you said, things are crazy. Something silly is bound to happen. This game's going to go a way that none of us at home have planned it for it to go.
So, Doc, over the past, it seems like 8 years, it seems like it's so rare that the starting quarterback for the Eagles and the starting quarterback for the Cowboys play against each other. Being week 1 of the NFL season, knock on wood here that everybody makes it through preseason training camp and everything without problems. Jalen, like you said, coming off of that hamstring, completely torn off the bone, required surgery and everything. Any limitations there for him? Is he going to be a full go? What are we expecting with him heading into week 1 of the NFL season?
Oh, I totally expect him to be a full go. I mean, this is an injury that once recovered, people get back to their full potential. I mean, I think he's just going to be rusty because he probably won't have a significant. He's going to have to play in the preseason, I think, to get the rust out. And if they rest him through the preseason, he's definitely going to be rusty just because he hasn't played in, I don't know how long he's been out. It was early. It was what, December, November when he went out? I can't remember.
I think it was early November. I think he missed a significant point of that season.
Correct. So I think he will reach his potential. And I hope he does. I really do. But I think that he probably will be rusty regardless of how well prepared he is prior to that game.
Yeah, November 12th.
Yeah. So it's been a long time. So that's the main thing I worry about. I don't worry about his performance. I think as the season goes on, he'll get better and better, and he should be fully recovered from that injury.
Oh yeah, his stats are going to be great.
Yeah.
If he's healthy, his stats will be great.
Yeah.
On a 8-win team, Dak Prescott's going to have top 5 quarterback stats, and Twitter's not going to let you forget about it. Yeah. They're going to have all of the comparisons, the side-by-sides of Jalen stats, Dak stats, everybody's stats, Jaden Daniels, all that. And they're going to say, oh, we got our quarterback. You don't need to worry about us. At least when heading into the draft, we don't have to worry about a quarterback, everything like that. And at the end of the day, they're going to do nothing in the playoffs. They won't make it to the playoffs. They'll say that now. Very, very clear. They're not a playoff team. They're not going to make the playoffs, and they're going to be stuck in that position that nobody wants to be, that they're too good to get a top 10 pick, and they're too bad to make any kind of run in the playoffs. And I love it.
Yeah, they're definitely on the down and down, if you will, right? I mean, they've got people that they need to pay, and a team that just doesn't seem to be particularly cohesive, can't stay healthy. Like, the coaching staff is a huge question mark. So, I mean, something is going to have to happen. They're going to have to wait until Dak retires, or they're going to have to move on from him. Something's big is going to have to happen to kind of catalyze them. I don't want to say tanking, but like getting into that one of the more prime draft positions and moving with the next phase of their franchise.
Yeah.
Take as much time as you need.
Exactly. For those watching on YouTube, obviously Coach is back in the saddle. Computer has updated. He is joining us here. Coach, we're talking about the Cowboys. We talked a little bit about Dak. Doc talked about Dak. That's a tongue twister right there on how he's going to be a full go week 1. I mean, hamstring injury, plenty of time to recover. We talked about just how it's so rare that both starting quarterbacks for the Eagles and the Cowboys face off against each other, and how week 1 is pretty much optimal for them both to have the opportunity. Although Doc said with that injury, Dak's likely going to have to play in the preseason just because he hasn't played competitive football since November 12th of last year. That if he doesn't get out there in the preseason, it'll be something difficult for him to go out there and perform. But we're talking about them being there for our banner dropping ceremony, and your thoughts about that.
I think when you look at the other teams, like who else was it going to be, right? Like you could probably put the Lions in there, but I feel like they had more juice if they would have kept Ben Johnson and their DC. some of the other teams that might have been good in there, Green Bay, you're playing at Green Bay, so you can't really do that. So I really think the options weren't that crazy. You can say the Rams, but I think the Rams, they don't have Cooper Kupp anymore. They might have been, like a flash in the pan last year, and they don't really have a lot of national attention. I mean, look, that first game is going to get watched no matter what. What a better way to kick it off. The NFL likes to do this week 16, week 17. You play your rival so that you're not like resting starters. Things are still on the line. Maybe they're starting week one right out the gate. What if teams did that? Week one right out the gate, you got a division game. So, look, maybe Jerry will have to dust off the VCR tapes and everything like that and see what a banner looks like, in the Twitter era, in the social media era, in the big box TV era. Who knows? So, maybe it'll encourage him to do some deals a little bit earlier, but I'm glad that they get to sit there and watch that banner drop.
Yeah. So, Coach, we're also talking about how they've got some more weapons over there in Dallas, and Dak's going to have a phenomenal regular season. His stats are going to be incredible on an 8-win team. You were talking a little bit beforehand in the group chat and everything about your thought of the current climate with Twitter coaches, Twitter GMs, and the quarterback here for Philadelphia compared to those around the league.
Yeah, I mean, like, you can call this a pet peeve. You can call this just like whatever you want to call it. But for the life of me, I don't understand what's happened to sports talk. Like, I really, really don't. And I know when I say that, the first thing that probably goes to y'all's mind is WIP and their nonsense, or like the Skip Bayless, the Stephen A. Smith, that just who could be the loudest yelling back and forth. And I've never seen people get behind so much definitively about an opinion. So they're not getting behind it with a lot of gusto and a lot of bravado with facts. They're getting behind this stuff with opinions. And that's what doesn't make sense to me. And for the life of me, you guys are all my friends. We were on the same podcast together. I have other friends outside of this too that we have a relationship to where we rag on each other for lack of ball knowledge. If you say something that is either incorrect or that shows you don't know ball, you're getting attacked by the group relentlessly until the subject change. Those are just the rules. I can't imagine, fellas, I cannot imagine if the Dallas Cowboys won the Super Bowl. Hear me out. I know that, don't laugh. Hear me out. If the Dallas Cowboys won the Super Bowl and swept the Philadelphia Eagles in the process, and not only did they win the Super Bowl, they beat the two-time defending Super Bowl champions. They were up by 35 in the fourth quarter at one point. And they're returning a lot of their star players, and they're returning a lot of their core, and they have one of the youngest teams in the NFL. I would not then go to Twitter and be like, well, in 2023, Jalen Hurts beat y'all. So, I mean, who's really the king of the East? I would get relentlessly torn apart by my friends, by my family, by you guys. Like, bigger picture here, you idiot. Like, imagine we beat the Dodgers 2 games out of 3 this year, and they're defending champions. Can we really sit here and be like, haha, Dodgers, we got you 2 out of 3 games? Okay, they're polishing their rings. Like, what really? Like, what are we talking about here? Since when did sports talk become who has a better top 10 quarterback, who has a better coach versus who's winning in the playoffs? Who wins the Super Bowl? Who wins the championship? When did we get to this point of, I don't care if you win the ultimate pinnacle, the game at the end of the year, my QB is ranked over yours, in Pete Johnson, who was a third-string quarterback for the Oilers back in 1978. He came out with his top 5 QB list, and that's what we're going to go of as a talking point. Man, you get laughed out of this house if you came over here. I swear to God.
I try not to put too much stock into it. I mean, usually it's just because those are the people that we're interacting with, and it tends to be the dumbest of the dumb. But yeah, I mean, social media rewards the shameless. You just have to remember that, like the people that are willing to die on a hill that is really just an anthill, and they're getting bitten, their ankles are getting torn up by fire ants. Like, you can't put too much stock in it. And then you do go to the professionals, and it's like, guys, I know you have 24 hours worth of talk shows to fill, but can we make a little bit of sense here? Like, do you have no shame as well? Are these your real thoughts and opinions? Because obviously, you got the typical tandem is going to be the former athlete that actually makes sense, most of the time. And then the shock jock, if you will, that's just there to mix things up a little bit, right? There's a completely bald 133-pound shock jock on there that's just here to mix things up a little bit. So
That was very specific. That was very specific, Sean.
it's you think it's very specific until you see some of these guys and you're like, it actually wasn't very specific. It was the entire category almost of people. So I don't know. I got to tell you, I listen to very little sports talk nowadays. I know the cool thing is to not listen to it. I really don't, because I don't make it more than like 2 or 3 minutes before going, this guy is lying to me. I don't believe he believes a word that's coming out of his mouth. Because it's just totally disingenuous. And Coach, once again, is completely. Oh, no, you're not froze. Okay. You're just stuck on that face. My bad.
Oh, man.
I had WIP on when I was listening to Phillies the other day in the car. And, whenever I got to my destination, the Phillies were still on, so I didn't change the station. I hopped into, I don't know if I was heading to work. I don't know. I don't remember what I was doing. But I hopped in, turned on the car, so naturally WIP is on. I'm listening for 3 to 5 minutes. And you got your 135-pound bald guy and Joe Giglio and your former pro and Hollis Thomas, right?
Hollis Thomas, like Greece, yeah.
And they're talking about
he's with Hugh Douglas.
Yeah, Hugh Douglas. Yeah. You got Hugh Douglas, Joe Giglio, and Hugh's on there. And Sean, to your point, I'm like, do you actually believe this? And the sad thing is, I think he does, because he's sitting there talking about how, the Eagles offense has to change. Jalen needs to take a major step forward this year. How many times are we just going to let this guy not be an elite passer of the ball? The league, you win by passing the ball. And I tweeted about it, and a lot of people were like, yeah, I can't listen to that crap. It's terrible. But a surprising amount of people were like, oh, he just meant they can't, it's not sustainable. You can't rely on Saquon to have a near record breaking. And I'm like, yeah, I get that. But you didn't listen to it. Trust me, that's not what he was saying. He was saying this offense needs to take a step forward. You need to bring them into the 21st century. The passing attack needs to develop. They have to change. They need to throw the ball more. I'm like, dude, we just won the damn Super Bowl. Like, we don't got to change shit.
Yeah.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And we got a coach that has done an incredible job after struggling 2 years ago. Since then, has done an incredible job at making adjustments on the fly, at saying this hasn't worked in the first quarter, first half, this drive. Let's change it up. Let's see what we can do. And right now, I just saw a video of Saquon Barkley squatting a damn FedEx truck.
Yeah.
I will give that guy another 600 carries. Like, that guy wants to break his record next year and the year after that. He's not going to Sirianni being like, hey man, I can't have that kind of workload anymore. He's never experienced anything like this, because how many of those carries was he never touched?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Never touched it, or he ran out of bounds, or he just kind of the pocket carried him down or something. Like, he is primed to go out there. And you want to talk about, Coach, I saw you tweeting about the other day when Dallas was like, oh, all we have to do is stop Saquon. You know who stopped Saquon?
The Chiefs.
The Kansas City Chiefs. What was the score in the fourth quarter?
34.
A lot to a little. Stop Saquon, doesn't matter. Jalen Hurts will go out there, air that shit out. He'll drop dimes on you left and right. You get him a little bit of protection, which, oh, by the way, we have 4 of the 5 same starting offensive linemen. We have Jeff Stoutland back there. Like, shut up.
And by the way, Spagnuolo with the Chiefs defense is much better than Dallas's defense.
Oh, yes. Okay? Oh, yeah, miles better. But it's enough of every year just regurgitating this. Oh, Jalen Hurts, we got to see him take this step up. Screenshot of his passing stats. Oh, he's never thrown for over 4,000 yards. I don't care.
Okay.
I don't care, Coach, for the billionth time. I don't care if you skip it in, if you fumble and pick it up and run it in, if you moonwalk it in, if you pass it, if you run it. I don't give a shit. You get a touchdown, you get 6 points. That's all that matters.
Wasn't it Chris Philly Dogs, who's obviously a member of this podcast too? During our playoff run, we were talking about, if the Eagles win the Super Bowl, we were all confident. We had our score predictions right. And Chris said, if we win, there's not shit you can say to me. There is nothing that you could say to me as a fan of any 31 other teams, as someone who's on sports radio, as someone who's on Twitter, you cannot say shit to me because my answer to every ranking, every debate, every 2022, 2023 is a picture of one of my players holding the Lombardi trophy currently. That's my response. There's nothing you can do to rebuttal it. It's the only thing that trumps any sports debate is if we're talking about the nitty gritty of everything for this year, and I'll give you up until next year's Super Bowl to do it. All I have to do is say, trophy, argument done. Argument done. There's nothing you can say to me. That's it.
Yeah. And we didn't win. We mollywopped them. So it's not like you could be like, oh, we kind of squeaked one out. It was a tough game. No, we belt to ass destroyed them. So have fun with your little hot takes. Have fun, WIP. Like the sad thing is I think they actually believe this stuff. I don't think they're just doing it to rile people up.
I don't think so. I don't believe that one bit.
Well, I will tell you this. I will tell you this. Speaking of Hugh Douglas, when I lived in Atlanta and I worked in Atlanta, Hugh was on Atlanta Sports Radio. Yeah. And so driving into the office every day, this is when you'd have to go to the office. Driving in the office every day, I was like, let me put on sports radio. I need something to kill the time during this trip. You know, I'm podcasted out at this point. I'll just listen to radio. And they were talking about the college playoffs, and, you know, I'm a UCF alum. And Hugh kept saying,
where?
UCF isn't a Division I school. They're not good enough. They cannot hang with Baylor. They can't hang with Auburn. I can't remember who it was. We were playing in a New Year's Six bowl game that year. He's like, so I called in for the first time. I was like, Hugh, what are you talking about, man? Like, these are our numbers. These are our stats. He's like, don't call my radio station ever again. He's like, UCF isn't a real school. Just call it what it is. Y'all belong with the Cinderellas. It's fluke. Well, again, I can't remember if it was Baylor or Auburn. I want to say Auburn, who was ranked number 6 in the country at the time. We beat the piss out of them. You know, the whole national champions thing. So I'm not going to get into that, guys. I'm not. But I called back in, and Hugh said, don't call this again, and hung up on me as soon as I was on. Don't call again. So that's the type of person Hugh Douglas is. He'll make a stance, but he won't back down from it, even when he's wrong. And, like, I don't know where Hugh Douglas went to college. I think it was a lower level school, but for someone like that to be talking about, like, another school just shows you when he has hot takes, he knows they may backfire, but he's not about to address it.
He went to Central State University.
Yeah, talking about UCF.
Wow. Central State. The nerve.
Anybody know what state that's in?
That was my question.
It's the middle of it. It's the middle of it. That's for
sure.
Is it
in the central location?
What is the state?
It is
directly in the middle of the United States.
Central State University is in the well-known city of Wilberforce, Ohio.
Wilberforce, Ohio.
Yeah. Oh, are there
any other colleges in Ohio that are pretty decent at football?
Yeah. I mean, that's a well-known spot. I mean, Wilberforce. You know how many talent has come out of Wilberforce?
The wife and I are planning a vacation there this year.
Doc, you've listened to everything from, you know, Angelo starting his career off to, I'm sure you tune in every now and then. Yeah. The current state of sports talk. You've been on. We've had this great relationship with DOS for a little over 3 years now. So you've been you know, featured in a bunch of episodes, co-hosted a handful of episodes. You know, been around the podcast game, the sports radio game. What is your thought on the current climate of sports radio? And we just talked off air that we were, you know, all watching ESPN recently. Like, we know the direction that national televised and radio sports broadcasting is going in. What are your thoughts on just the shift that you've seen it take over the past couple of years?
Well, I mean, the general trend is controversy generates revenue and generates views. And I think if you just say what everybody knows, it's ho-hum. Yeah, everybody knows this, that. You gotta come with a different angle. And I literally, the one that really got me, I was watching Colin Cowherd, and he was going off about Philadelphia fans, and all his facts were completely wrong. And it goes back to throwing snowballs at Santa Claus. No one tells the real story, but it's great. It's a great hot take. That happened in the 60s. None of you guys were born, and I was a baby. And they're still talking about this stuff. And it's so disingenuous. It's so stupid. But the reason they do it, and the reason Colin Cowherd does it, is because he knows if he pisses off Eagles fans, they're going to come out in droves. And that's why the people do this. I saw a Twitter the other day which showed the second quarter stats of the Eagles-Bucks game, where it was like Bucks 267 yards, Eagles 0. And I put, well, how did that season end? and it's the Super Bowl. You know, it's like, who cares? Like you said before, I think people just like to get rises. And, you know, if you're just stating the facts, you're going to be a low-rated show, and no one's going to listen to you. You know, I think people don't see the value in insight and things like that. They just want the, oh, my team's great, or you think my team sucks and you're wrong. That's the way sports has become. And it's annoying. I watch, or I listen sometimes when I'm driving into work. I listen to WIP, and they're just trying to anger their fans. Because they are. They
do a good job.
They say things like, oh, A.J. Brown wants to leave. A.J. Brown read a book. Oh, my God, look at this. Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown are like best friends. Oh, he didn't come to his engagement party. Well, God, he just won the Super Bowl. He's Super Bowl MVP. He might have something else on his plate than A.J.'s engagement party. But that becomes front page news. And it just takes the sports away from sports. You know, you're not talking about sports. And that's what drives me crazy.
Why are we talking about a Patriots wide receiver?
Yeah, exactly. There you go. That's the other one. Oh, with the coach, you know, he had the same coach in Tennessee. So, of course, he wants to go there. Leave the Super Bowl champions for an up-and-coming potential disaster team. Yeah, that makes sense.
Just take a look at just your normal everyday fans, though. It's like, if you're not unabashedly just 100% positive on every single player on this team.
Oh, yeah. No,
they're going to crush you for it. Just that, you know, if you think a guy can play a little better and then he eventually turns it around and starts playing better, they're going to be like, no, you stay over there, man. You were against them before. Don't be back over here now. Like, yeah, I mean, he wasn't playing well, and now he's playing great. Like, what? I just don't understand, like, the mentality of the average fan. Now, I will say, and I don't know how off topic this is, but I do recall one kind of shock jock guy a couple of years back who is now vying. I don't know if you guys follow closely
I know you're
on Twitter to get on 97.5. He used to have a show.
Is this who I think it is?
Yes.
Afternoon show with Ike Reese after Ike and Mike split up.
Josh Ennis?
But if 97.5 hires Josh Ennis,
oh my God,
he was a villain that I believed. I genuinely would get worked up listening to his show, and
because he doesn't give a shit about Philadelphia.
He's from Houston.
He's not even an Eagles fan.
Actually, 97.5 Fanatic, you hire him, I will actually convert from a former 94 WIP listener. I will listen to the Fanatic whenever he's on. Just putting that out there. That guy was a villain that I believed in himself, and I was just amazed. Like, by the end, it reminded me of that Bill Burr skit in Philadelphia where he's like, you guys are the worst people ever, and they get booed, and he just keeps going and going and going, and by the end, they're all cheering and clapping. That was me. I was like upset that they broke up the team, because by the end, I was like, you know what? I appreciate this guy a lot. He's sticking with it.
No, he's terrible.
He was the best at being the worst.
He was bad.
I love him.
Certainly bad. No, it's funny how he's crawling back with his tail between the legs after he talks so much shit.
He's been fired from every place he's gone, I think.
No, he's struggling, but it's embarrassing, the current state of everything. And it's like, you see a clip that'll go viral on social media where you'll have an ex-player or a real just clinician of the game, statistician, that will just break something down in a way that just makes it so understandable to the average fan, but also goes in depth and talks about, like, hey, this is what, as a former player, as somebody that really knows the game, this is what you're looking at before the snap. This, and they explain it in such an approachable, understandable way. And people are like, oh, thank you. Like, we find that's all we're looking for and everything. And then they'll continue doing it, and people just don't give a fuck anymore. And they just only want to listen to, it's like you said, the fans want to be pissed off. They just want to have something to yell about. And then, to Sean's point, we'll go out and we pride ourselves in holding everybody accountable. Our favorite player on a team will be like, I mean, look, I've said for years, I'm a big Bohm guy. Just the other month, I was vying for him to get traded or cut off the team. Like, we will hold anybody accountable. But I swear, half the time that you do, you get gate-kept by a fan that's like, oh, you don't like the Phillies? Oh, you're a Philadelphia sports podcast and you hate our teams? You're a moron. You're an idiot. What are you doing? And then, like, I tweeted the other day something real negative about the Phillies, and I got ripped. And then in that, like, reply chain, Bohm came up, and I was like, yeah, he's really struggling, but he's been historically just a really unlucky hitter. His expected batting average is like 390, but he just always hits it hard right at people, or they make web gems or anything.
I did
And then they're like, you're an
average
idiot.
to be 390, you son of a gun. But it's not.
No, it ain't. It most certainly is not. And I said, yeah, he sucked, but we can all admit that he has gotten a little bit unlucky as well. And then they're like, oh, like, you idiot, Bohm sucks. I'm like, I thought we had to be universally positive. What happened? Like, I thought I couldn't talk any crap because you're all mad that I said something bad about our Canadian leader, Rob Thompson. We got Justin Trudeau behind the damn bench. And then I try to hold somebody accountable. They're like, oh, so you hate the Phillies? Yep, I guess I do.
Gotcha. I just watch it 160 nights out of the year.
Exactly. And then there's just a handful of people that when we have it going in the group text, whenever any of our tweets get liked by a handful of individuals, we'll just screenshot it and be like, well, I guess I made a terrible point, because if this person's liking it, then I'm an idiot, because they are the dumbest human being I've ever met.
Yeah.
I mean, we do that with Bryce Harper too, right? Like Bryce Harper.
Yeah.
Probably one of the most clutch Phillies of all time, especially in the playoffs. But he's kind of underwhelming right now. And it's okay to say that. That doesn't mean you dislike Bryce Harper or the Phillies. It's just pointing out that, hey, this production is subpar and below average. We'd like to see you be better. We don't say it like that, but that's what we mean.
Well, listen, the team's been playing well. I mean, what if they won like 13 series in a row or something like that, right? Rob finally decided. No, it's not that long.
5, I think.
Like 4 or 5, yeah. They've won like 13-17 since a 6 out of 7 game skid. They're playing better. There's still things that really piss me off. You know, you'll have nights where it's like the losses piss you off because there's never fight. It's games that should be handled that we just throw away with no change in anybody's approach. So it's more so like, yeah, they're doing well, and I'm very happy about that, and I hope the success continues. But it's like the losses that they've taken, it's not like, oh man, like that was a good game. You're like, wow, like we looked incredible last night, and we look like utter dog shit tonight.
Yeah, I'll come upstairs half the time after the game's over, and my girl will be like, the game's over already? And I'll be like, yeah, it doesn't take that long when you just, you're 3 and out for 7 out of the 9 innings.
Jake, yeah. I almost tweeted at you and agreed with you the other night. The game that was on ESPN had one of the worst strike zones I've ever seen in my life. And I've been on this show telling you to chill with Topper sometimes, but even I was like, okay, man, like, these balls are 6 inches off the plate getting, called strike 3, and he's just sitting there. Trey, who never says a word, is staring at the ump. Schwarber's halfway down the first and has to turn around and go like this to the umpire and then ask for time. And then it's just insane to me. And no matter who it is, even Casty, who's a little bit of a hothead, strikes out on a ball that's 6 inches off the plate, and he's just standing there like, you're kidding me. And I don't see one word from Topper. I don't see anything. And even the announcing crew was like, yeah, interesting strike zone tonight, because they had to be.
Oh yeah, it was terrible. And we won that game. That's great. Won that game, but it was awful. And like, look, we love Ben Silver. He's rarely wrong. He's got great insight, has wonderful sources, like gives us great information. But we were going back and forth a lot, and I was like, yeah, I don't like Rob Thompson. He never holds players accountable. He never, stands up for his players. It's all just, and he was like, oh, well, I hear, he really talks to people a lot in the locker room and everything. I don't give a shit. Like, I really don't care what he says behind closed doors. Like, I don't. And I'm not sitting there saying, hey, I want him to go to a press conference and be like, hey, so Schwarber really shit the bed today, huh? Questions, go ahead. Like, I don't want him to call him out publicly in front of the press, but like Bryce Harper batting .235, not hustling for like a week straight on any ground ball, be like, hey, Bohm, you're sliding over to first. Hey, like, you're Harper, ride the bench. We don't do that here. Like, you're paid to run every single time. And like, you need to see somebody be held accountable. And then in the same breath, back your players up. Trey Turner, who never does anything, yelling at a ref like 3 times in the first 3 innings of the game. I was worried that somebody's going to get a quick hook because they were talking back to a terrible umpire. And I had 0% hope that I thought Rob Thompson was going to come out and say anything. And how many times do you see every week, because there's 100 games a week, if not more in the MLB? Yeah, way more than 100 games a week. But you'll see every week a team looks down and out, the manager goes out, gets tossed, and they have a big rally, and it sparks something, and it rallies everything behind. And you will never see that in Rob Thompson. It's similar to every year, every month, the Kyle Schwarber ejection with Angel Hernandez makes its rounds. I was at that game. It was incredible to watch. Every month you'll see it make it rounds, and then you see Joe Girardi walk out, hands in his pockets, just kind of like, hey, Angel, I kind of have to come out here because Kyle made a big to-do. Like, it is what it is, man. Like, it's a tough job, but I'm out here. I don't even think Rob would do that.
But also, read the room. Angel Hernandez is notorious for being a bad umpire. So the benefit of the doubt goes to Schwarber here, like in anything.
Today's episode is brought to you by White Glove Car Wash. Man, it feels like we just never get a break. We go from salt and brine on the roads right into pollen season, and our car never seems to be as clean as we need it to be. That's where White Glove steps in. They're offering unlimited car wash packages for as low as $20 a month. You can take your car in daily and make sure that it is shiny, squeaky clean like you always want it to be, and not have to worry about cleaning it yourself. And with a satisfaction guarantee, you will never have to worry about it being just right. With locations in Delaware, Pennsylvania, and New Jersey, you are never too far from the glove. Family owned and operated for over 40 years, go out and support small businesses this year and support your car by giving it the best car wash possible. Just ask your phone to take you to White Glove Car Wash to be taken to the nearest location to you and let them give you the best car wash you have ever experienced.
I couldn't believe, like, I was watching that game on ESPN going, do they normally talk to the umpires this often? Like, they're calling a pretty bad game, but I'm like, is it just because they have the camera? Each time they were like, oh, yeah, let me see that. Let me see that. Like, I couldn't believe how frequently, like, Trey was just like, are you kidding me? So, I think Rob's hands are, for the most part, tied. I think this is a Dave Dombrowski failure. I think that Rob is working with what he's got, and
Dave Dombrowski won't allow Rob Thompson to talk
with the relief staff.
Dombrowski gave a no talking rule to the manager.
No, just as far as the shortcomings throughout the season. Oh, don't get me wrong. No, I think Rob needs to be able to know when to turn it on and fire up his guys.
Yeah.
Right, but I typically I'm not taking to Twitter, I'm not taking to the podcast, and I'm ripping on Rob too much because most of his lineups look a little weird, especially against lefties this year.
Yeah,
especially on the third game of a potential sweep, it feels like he just throws everything out and gives everybody a rest. But I mean, there's not too much I can complain about there. But yeah, I would like to see him fire up once. How many times has he gone out and yelled at the home plate ump in the however many 3.5 seasons he's been here?
like twice, maybe.
Twice? What's the over under on that? Like 2.5? Yeah, it's too few.
Yeah. Now, and to your point, they have a terrible record against left-handed pitchers, and people are like, and you get half the people like, oh yeah, they really struggle against lefties, and then the other half that have a brain, they're like, yeah, it's because Rob Thompson just completely just puts all the players in a cup, shakes it up, throws it on the table, goes Yahtzee, and says, all right, this is what we're doing today. Like he throws everything out of the window. We had Max Kepler 3 straight games just lighting the ball up. Don't let Max Kepler get hot. Don't worry, Rob Thompson never will. He took him out of the damn lineup the next game. When a player can't get hot, they'll immediately get removed. Otto, let him get red hot. He's white hot. He'll be ice cold by the time he sniffs the majors. Now, I know that's not Rob Thompson's decision, but that's just a Phillies thing in general.
What game was it? It was just recently. It might have been like 4 or 5 games ago. I can't remember. But the team brought in like a closer that was left-handed or an eighth inning guy that was left-handed, and Kepler was due up. And they subbed Kepler out for like Weston Wilson or something. And I'm cool with Weston Wilson or Sosa, whatever. I'm cool with Sosa too, to be lefty on righty. And then the announcers were like, in his career, Kepler's batting like .467 with 5 home runs and a 1,100 OPS against this lefty. And I'm like, do we not have access to that information? Do the Phillies have access to that?
No, righties hit lefties, lefties hit righties.
And I know that's a thing. Like,
no, that's the only thing to the Phillies. That's it.
I get that. I get a righty sees a lefty better, a lefty sees a righty better, but
Talk
when
to
you
Kyle
have
Schwarber
the
about that.
data in front of you that says this guy owns this guy, he sees him well. Like in 20 at bats to have 6 home runs, 1,100 OPS, and batting damn near 500. I think the guy that you signed to be your starting left fielder in the outfield this offseason deserves to get an at bat against him. I mean, what are we doing?
Yeah, I don't know. Doc, Andrew Painter made his first start in the minors the other night. I'm going to pull up the exact stat line because I don't want to skew it or anything, but still looking at probably like a deadline call up kind of timeline like that, with Ranger looking absolutely dominant in his last start. What would you do? You or Dave Dombrowski, Rob Thompson, whoever makes these decisions. Ranger continues to pitch very well. I'm not going to say he dominates every single start like he did last, but he's at a low 3 ERA, pitching well. Andrew Painter's coming up. There's no other pitcher that's really, really struggling. What do? You trading Ranger? You moving him to the bullpen? You doing a 6-man rotation?
That's tough. I mean, it depends on how the season continues. I mean, if
no matter what you choose, WIP will say you're wrong, by the way.
I know, but I would say this. My personal opinion is I would keep him down as long as I could, just because I want to kind of just not overuse that arm, because when he gets up here, the competition gets harder. It's more stress on the arm. So I'd like to see him down as long as possible. I think you could jump to a 6-man rotation, but then you got to decide the playoffs, what you do then. Rangers, the thing about Rangers, he could go at any moment. It's like pressing your luck. You don't know. And hopefully that isn't the case, but with a history like his and his back, he's got, he's going to hopefully have a good season, but if they overuse him like they did in the beginning of last year, the chances of it flaring up are higher. So my opinion is I'd keep him up here for now. I'd keep him down there for now. And then I don't know. I don't think I put Ranger in the bullpen yet because his starts are good. I'd wait to see if he starts having issues like he did the first game, I would say, yeah, maybe put him down the bullpen and bring him up. But other than that, I'd leave it the way it is for now. Wait till you absolutely have to bring him up for the postseason.
Doc, I have an insane question to ask you, and I don't know if it's been asked before, but I know when you talked about Painter in the offseason, we talked about the difference between being a bullpen guy and being a starter with your warm-up, your ramp-up, how hard you throw, knowing you're coming in for 1 inning versus knowing you probably got to go 6 or 7. Knowing the type of pitcher Aaron Nola is, a finesse pitcher, a location pitcher, a pitcher that relies on, his knuckle curve, his off-speed stuff more than being a power pitcher, is a move to the bullpen specifically for the playoffs. Would that be better for a pitcher like Nola, or would that be better for a power pitcher?
I think personally it'd be better for a power pitcher, and also you got to worry about the mental element of it because because here's a guy that's always been flirting with being the ace of the staff, and then you all of a sudden say, hey, your bullpen. People see that as a natural decline, so I'd be very leery to put a guy like that in the bullpen and take him out of that role. And I do think it's the power guys that can mow down 1 or 2, when I think, reliever, the first thing that comes to my mind is like John Rucker coming out there like on a house on fire. And I think it's hard for guys like Nola to do that based on the way they pitch. So I would definitely try to keep him in his starting role, and I think at some point he may accept the fact that he's not pitching like he used to. I don't think that's in the immediate future by any means. But I don't think that's something you toy with. I think it affects him much more in the head than in the body.
I was just asking because I feel like I trust him the least of the starters thus far, maybe.
Right.
But based on your point, that mental aspect I think is not worth the risk. You're right.
Yeah, I mean, especially if your intention is just to do it temporarily and bring him back. Even if you explain that to him, it's like you get a demotion at work. You're like, well, now look at me, I'm doing this, and you kind of lose your motivation.
I'd like to see. I mean, I know you didn't ask me what you think about bringing Painter up, but I'd like to see him eventually come up as a starter, because no matter what, whether you're in AAA or you're in the bigs, I mean, you're throwing pitches out there. I don't know if there's too much of a difference between starting in AAA, long term on your shoulder versus starting in the bigs. I'd like to see what a 6-man rotation would look like.
Yeah.
Right. I know Wheeler, the thing is Wheeler likes just going a 5-man. Okay. You keep him on his schedule and then you extend all the other guys. And who knows? You see how that affects all the guys, right? You see if it helps a guy like Nola, right? You see if it throws a guy off like Luzardo. I don't know. You have this time during the middle, maybe the second half of the season to see how that pans out, and you can go from there, right? So that way you can you have time to tinker around with it.
And we know they will. They love to tinker.
I mean, it's a long season. You're going to tinker. You're going to throw some crazy lineups against lefties, right? You're probably not going to throw Nola in the relief staff, but you're going to do some wild things like that. So, I mean, it's something that I would like to see happen at some point. Do I think it will? No, I think Thompson's going to believe that would throw too much of a wrench into things. But that's my 2 cents.
Yeah. Let me ask you guys this. Speaking about the bullpen and speaking about pitchers, I want to see what you guys think about this. Do you think and I'll use the word cheap here, as cheap as Dombrowski was in the offseason, do you think his fix to the bullpen at the deadline is just going to be keeping Taiwan in there, which hats off to Taiwan, and then moving either Painter and or Ranger there and going to that 4 or 5 man rotation and saying, hey, we basically added 3 new bullpen guys in Painter, Ranger, and Taiwan. So, yeah, you add that to Strom and Alvarado, and if Kirkring improves, there's your bullpen. Do you think he's going to do – or are they going to try and sell fans on the fact that that's our improvement?
No, you know what they're going to do? They're going to bring up Mick Abel.
Don't.
No?
I can't believe it. I'm not going to believe the hype. I just can't.
All right, so then trade Mick Abel for a bullpen arm.
Fine. I'm cool with that. Mick,
he didn't put him up in the majors, and I certainly would think you'd have no problem shipping him out. That's how that works, dude.
What's that?
That's how that works. If you don't want him on your team, I would imagine you don't have no issue with him going to another team.
You just got to go to the Howie Roseman school of trade conversations. Oh, Mick Abel's the best. Literally the best. And you want him.
I wonder if any of the Philadelphia teams ever really communicate GM to GM. Wonder if they ever just kind of chit chat hey, what's trading like in your sport?
They got to have a group chat. They
Who's left out of it? Daryl Morey?
Daryl Morey, they don't. Yeah. They have a separate group chat that doesn't include Daryl Morey, and they talk shit on whatever he says in the group chat.
Agree.
Oh yeah, you're building a team around Paul George and Joel Embiid, huh? Good luck with that, pal.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, no, Daryl Morey is a fucking idiot.
No, that was my question, you guys. If you thought if that was going to be a fix, or would you be okay with that? Because those aren't bad.
No, I wouldn't be okay with it. I really wouldn't. If they continue to be a good team, a top 5 team in major, top 5, top 7 team in Major League Baseball, top 3 team in the NL, and they're looking man, they're a bullpen piece away from really solidifying out. And that, I mean, we're all hoping Schwarber gets re-signed, but there's a decent shot that he goes, and he's tied for the league lead in home runs with Aaron Judge, who's batting 500. He's out there. You got guys that are only getting older. You don't have a very young team, and you're man, we're a top 3 team in the NL, top 5 team in baseball, and you don't go out there and get a stud or do everything possible to get one. Then it's just a spit in the face to all the fans.
There's no reason to believe they're going to get a stud out there. I mean,
no, I don't know. There's no reason to believe it, but it's so insulting.
Deadline piece that we've gotten. I mean, it's been Brandon Marsh is the most significant pickup we've gotten. There's not expect very little at the deadline. They're going to bring Painter up at some point. He's going to be the real deal. They're going to throw Ranger into the pen. They're going to say, deal with it. The playoffs, he'll be just fine. Is there a guy that you
slap in the face
that's going to be better in the pen than Ranger anyways?
No, it isn't that a slap in the face.
It won't be.
Doc, you're a professional. Isn't that a slap in the face?
Don't just brush me off because I'm not a professional. I'm a professional at something, all right? It's just not
true.
this.
That's true. No, I mean,
I was top golf last night.
I think
I was awful. No, I raked. No, I was awful.
I don't know. I think it's like we said earlier about the Eagles. It's outcome based. You know, we're not going to judge anything till. I mean, if nothing happens, we're going to be like, oh my God, if we wound up having a bad season, or the Phillies have a bad season, it's going to be the worst thing ever. But if we wind up having another run like we did a couple of years ago, it's going to be like, oh, he's a genius. Look what he didn't do. You know, look what he didn't get rid of. So it's tough. It's a hard position, but that's why they get paid the big bucks. You know, and I think that you can argue one way or the other, but it's all based on productivity. And I think you got to get the most out of your prospects now. I mean, Painter's got to be the real deal, which I think he is. I'm just saying, but you have to, you're kind of putting your eggs all in one basket, and it better be fruitful.
I'm not going to lie. That explanation made me feel a lot better. I thought that was beautifully said. I'm not going to lie. I listened to it and I was like, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Damn it. But you know what? I'll still be mad when we get nobody. We get nothing at the deadline.
Just prepare. We might get cash considerations. Who knows?
Look,
I mean,
all I know.
Don't we have a pretty decent farm system right now? If you look at, and I'm not including Painter. You look at Crawford. You look at
Miller, Kemp.
Otto Kemp has been crushing people. Is Kemp the real deal? Like, it seemed like
we'll never know.
This was a guy
I'll never tell.
We weren't talking about Otto Kemp coming into the season this year and when he might possibly be supplanting Bohm at third. Like, we weren't having these conversations.
You're right. Otto Kemp, 324, 10 home runs, 36 RBI, 6 stolen bases, which isn't something to scoff at, with a 1.06 OPS.
That plays.
Listen, I'll just be happy to get somebody that's a little bit faster than Bohm out there. The guy runs just like a giraffe, but half as slow.
I didn't realize he was as slow as he is, man.
He's awful. He's bad.
Yeah.
Like, everybody online says, yeah, he's 6'5". Why isn't he hitting dingers? And I'm like, have you seen the guy run? He obviously is not. He lacks some of the fast twitch muscle fibers here. He's got great hand-eye coordination, don't get me wrong, but it's making up for a lot, guys. He's not like a physically explosive guy.
426 on base percentage, 25 extra base hits, including a triple.
So then my question would be, what do you have to do as a minor leaguer to get called up?
A hell of a lot. We had a major leaguer in Jake Cave, who was the minor league player of the day, week, month, for it seemed like 9 weeks before they were like, all right, Jake, like, you can come back up as a bench piece. We're not going to let you, get every day at bats.
Well, also because Jake Cave, he had been up and he was 47 years old, or at least he looked 40.
He looked so old.
Jake Cave was left-handed, so there you go.
We knew what he was, though. We don't know what Otto Kemp is. So for that, like, we might want to see. I don't know.
Exactly.
I mean, the question is,
find out? How do you find out?
The question is, like, bring him up to do what?
Down?
Yeah, I was gonna say, bring him up to do what? Because they're not gonna send Bohm down.
I feel like we sent Bohm was brought up at like 23, 24. Like, I feel like he might be able to send him back down once or twice.
Yeah, he's got to have options.
He might have a couple options left.
I guess that's the overall
That's the hell of a demotion, but like.
So we just talked about Schwarber. He's going to be a free agent, right? Bohm is going to be a free agent, right? JT is going to be a free agent. Not that would be a significant loss, but still, like, I mean, Marshawn looks.
The real big question is, if you do move on, like, I'm pro moving on from JT, but somebody brought up a great point. Who plays catcher?
Well, we thought Marshawn was going to be the answer, and 45 games into the season, he's not. So
Alex Bohm had 0 options.
So that's my point. That's my point about the trade deadline is, like, if all these guys are going to be free agents next year and you're not re-signing all of them, isn't this the time to push in the chips? Like, go get a Mason Miller, go get a closer. Like, Ranger's a free agent next year too. Like, isn't this the time to, like, say,
I
hey,
wonder what a Mason Miller's going to cost.
Mick Abel, Chris McGarry.
Yeah, Mick Abel.
We're not giving them Mick Abel straight up, right? Who says no? Like, that guy's going to cost a lot.
Yeah, it's going to cost you Ranger and Abel, and I don't even know if they want Ranger because
it's got to cost a guy that isn't already getting paid, or that is already that isn't due to get paid any day now.
Yeah, that's why I was just correcting myself, saying they probably wouldn't even want Ranger.
Right, like who's playing well above what we're paying them right now.
All right, well, go ahead.
I was gonna say we didn't know about Otto Kemp this year, but I don't think we talked about Orion Kirkering when he got called up last year. Did like he wasn't on the radar? It was McGarry and Abel, and then all of a sudden he called up Kirkering.
Kirkering stinks.
Yeah,
but now he stinks.
Kirkering sucks. What about outfielder single A Dante Nori, our 4th ranked prospect? He's 20 years old. He's got a long way to go.
Single A.
Do it.
Single A.
Do it. Throw him in there.
No,
Throw
it's
Gary.
I do want to touch on. It's getting late in the episode.
Get him out of here.
I do want to touch on the NBA draft lottery, and I want Doc had some pretty distinct feelings on that. Essentially, if you do something to benefit the Lakers, you will get rewarded.
Yes. It's happened twice. You know, trade goes to the Lakers.
You know, I think it all started my distrust in the league when they nullified that Chris Paul trade.
Mm-hmm.
And ever since then, it just feels like every year there's like one thing where you're like, that really doesn't pass the sniff test. And this year's draft lottery smells like shit.
I agree with that.
Yeah,
It's like we'd probably be more vocal about it if the Sixers didn't get a top 3 pick. We'd probably be a little bit more angry. So it's kind of like,
well, the city's almost checked out on the franchise as a whole.
yeah.
Right? That's when we'd be more angry. If we actually gave a shit about basketball, about the NBA, yeah, we'd be pretty damn fired up. This place has just been so, just I don't know. Just
But next year they're playing in the Xfinity Mobile Arena.
For how long? How long is the name going to be Xfinity Mobile? What's the
I saw somebody make a point that said, why do you need the word mobile in there?
Yeah.
Is it Xfinity Landline Arena? You going to confuse it with that? Like, what is the point of the mobile?
It's all owned by Xfinity. I get it's a company, like a subsection of it, but it's still owned by Xfinity. Hence the Xfinity part of the mobile. I don't know.
I think Doc is spot on, though, right? Like, I think the NBA viewership is kind of like been dying over the last 5 to 6 years, right? You have your marquee teams, and then you have your teams that are just unwatchable. Like on Thursday Night Football in the NFL, the Browns could be playing the Titans, and I'm tuning into that. It's Thursday night with 2 horrible teams, and I am tuning into that. But if you got the Pelicans versus the Hawks on a Tuesday night, I promise you on anything, I'm probably picking like a rom-com with my girl over that. Like you can't force me to watch that. So I think after the entire Luka trade and the debacle, if you need to inject some juice back into like viewership and like Luka being gone, like Doc said, what better way than to reward the Mavericks with the number 1 pick?
Well, you had a fan base that was basically in revolt. They were actively after their GM. And the only way to save that guy's life, literally, is to give them something to take their mind off the fact that he made that trade. And, and it just really stinks. It's back to when, the Knicks got Patrick Ewing and the envelope was a little bit chillier than the rest, back in the old days. So, I mean, it's been going on for years. And what amazes me is the fact that nobody, you were talking about the media, nobody acknowledged the incredible coincidence this is, and the fact that this may be something other than straight luck. And that I mean, sometimes you gotta call a spade and be like, yeah, it's kind of suspicious, that happened, but nobody dares, we went up against Adam Silver and we paid the price heavily for it, so I think people have learned their lesson. Don't mess with the commissioner of the association or you're going to be penalized for a decade. I think we're finally coming out of that because he realizes, we were left with nothing and the little we have left is broken. So, and they know that at the bottom line, they know where their marquee fan bases are. That's what they know. And Dallas is one of them. The Lakers are one of them. And the Sixers to some extent are that too. So
I think it's like a pie chart, right? Like of this pie chart that makes up all of our revenue, 80% of that pie chart is probably Lakers, Celtics, Knicks, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So you want to pump your assets into what makes that pie chart, like in any business, successful. No one's tuning into the New Orleans Pelicans. Nobody's tuning into, like these other teams that we mentioned. So I think that makes sense, Doc, what you were saying. And there's no way of proving the lottery like, oh, I'm sure this was the Mavs. There's no way to prove it.
Think of the team that ultimately got screwed, the Utah Jazz. Are they a big player in this? No. So they're like, okay, we can sacrifice that lamb to get, the Dallas back up. And Dallas basically was a near playoff team. They were the one game close to getting in there, and they get the number 1 pick. They're essentially a playoff team.
Yes, and they just had bad luck and injuries to end the season.
Kyrie tore his ACL, or they would have been in the playoffs. That's all it is. And because of that, they get the ultimate prize. And
they get a new white superstar.
Yep.
They're gonna love him.
Yeah. Down there. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Also pulled up the prospect list. Otto Kemp, 24th prospect for the Phillies, behind names like Michael Mercado, Wen-Hugh Pan, Iverson Castellano, Mavis.
Iverson Castellano is a name?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Iverson, not Iverson. Iverson Castellano, not Castellanos. Castellano. Could be, you know what? It could be Herb from Northeast. It could be Castellano. His actually could be Castellano.
That's a name that I floated to naming our son that didn't get approved by the wife.
Iverson.
Castellano.
But it's when we were talking about like, oh, who knew Otto Kemp? Nobody. Clearly nobody knew him because Mavis Graves, the 21-year-old that's sitting in high A, is 7 spots higher than him.
Is Michael Mercado Nolan Ryan in the minors? Because we all have seen Michael Mercado pitch, correct?
He's 26 years old and he's their 23rd ranked prospect. When your age is higher than the ranking.
I went to the game that Michael Mercado made his debut against the Braves. I went to that game and he didn't get out of the first inning, if that gives you any idea of how the game went. So I'm not sure.
Meatball Mercado.
We called him that, didn't we?
Yes,
we did. Griffin Burkholder, 17 spots higher than him. Yeah. So to answer the who knew about Otto Kemp, none of us knew.
All right.
But we do now, and hopefully we will in the majors here shortly.
Guys, I had a real quick question for you. I know we're running a little late here, and I know I'm not running the show, but Rob Manfred says if you are excluded from the hall, it is only while you're alive. Okay, so everybody can be inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame after they die.
Posthumously.
How do you guys feel about possibly Pete Rose finally getting to the hall a year or so after he passed?
Cool.
Not all at once, guys.
The player.
He was the all-time hit leader. I think he needs to be there. I mean, if
he has to be there.
Yeah, a museum dedicated to baseball history, him and Shoeless Joe Jackson are baseball history. And Bonds and those guys are eventually going to get in. They're probably just going to wait a long time because they deserve to be finished. Yeah, they wait till nobody remembers them, and then they'll put them in. That whole crew, that whole steroid crew. To me, they had a more heinous crime than what Pete Rose did. Pete Rose gambled on himself. I mean, yes, it's not good. It's not good for the league, but I think
who cares?
Steroids and hey kids, try this and you'll be a home run king. That's far more damaging to anything Pete Rose did, and I think Pete Rose deserves to be in the hall. I mean, just bonus history. I mean, he got punished. They waited till he passed, and then they said okay, which I think is cruel because he was trying harder than anybody to get into the Hall of Fame. But I think that he deserves to be there.
Oh, he more than deserves to be there.
Yeah, and I think these lifetime bans apparently don't last a lifetime. Well, they last their lifetime, but so I think both of them should get in for a historical perspective. I mean, both of them deserve to be in there, so they should.
Darn right.
No ask.
Not for them.
That's safe for the next crowd.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Final thoughts?
Final thought. Taijuan Walker, you deserve your flowers. You pitched pretty well this year, and even in the bullpen, you've looked amazing. As someone who was absolutely horrible last year, hats off to the hard work you put in. Word is you're a hell of a teammate. I got nothing bad to say about you this year.
Nope, nothing.
Final thought. Let Bonds in without the asterisks, baby.
Oh, stop.
Now, come on.
Oh, that's pathetic. Yeah, coming from a guy that's done steroids.
Come on, he was 180 pounds. He was the best player in baseball for a decade. Shut up.
He should have left it at that. He should have left it at that.
Shut up.
It's
You
like the
could get
girl
rid
that
of
has,
all the stats he did afterwards, a 70 home run season. He's still first ballot.
yeah, but he's like the woman that does too many plastic surgeries and winds up looking like a big fat bloated cat. You know, he did too much. He went too far. He should have stayed with what he was. And
Still pissed at that.
I thought he was a tremendous one of the best baseball players I've ever seen, but the steroids got ridiculous. So, but yes, I'll take away the asterisk. Hall of Famer.
It's the most exciting era of baseball. There's never been anything like it.
Something like that. Final thoughts. Go Phils. I don't hate them. I just like holding them accountable. Go Phils.